So we hope you've seen the exercise theme over and over and over today and the importance of it. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the vendor village. They will be there throughout the rest of the day, even after we end. So I'm sorry to pull you away from those important topics, but it's important that you see Jimmy. You're going to be so inspired. Once again, I'd like to thank our vendors. They truly make the difference for our organization. So I'm going to introduce Jimmy. If you haven't read about it, I know we have it in our program, but let me tell you a little bit about Jimmy's background. At the age of 27, he was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease. Jimmy went into denial, as so many do with this dire diagnosis, and did nothing to manage his Parkinson's symptoms for 8 years. By 2010, which would be 8 years into the disease, he was walking with a cane, and he hit rock bottom when, as Cheryl mentioned, he fell down the stairs while holding his months-old son, Mason. And that forced Jimmy to make a decision about taking back control of his life. Since then, he participates in clinical trials. He's raised money. He started running. He'll tell you all the things that he's done. I'm exhausted. He joined Team Fox. Now he's the Fox Ninja. I just can't wait for you to hear from him, especially the American Ninja Warrior part. He and his wife Cheryl live in the Chicagoland area. He is a great advocate for our disease, and he's also now very involved in his kids' lives, which is a great turnaround from where he started. Exercise is one of his drugs, and we hear that all the time. I'm thinking of you, Dr. Licklider. Like, the best drug that you can take to delay the progression is exercise. So, Jimmy's gonna start with a 4-minute video. I will get off. We need to remove this podium, and we'll let Jimmy go.
Just like everything in the 70s, I was made in Taiwan. My family immigrated to the United States when I was 10 years old. We moved to Bolingbrook, Illinois. I was very active in high school. I played multiple sports. I played baseball, I wrestled, and I was captain of the football team. I met Cheryl in high school, and we got married in the year 2000. We have 2 kids, Mason and Karina. Life for us was just beginning. I mean, we had very ambitious career goals. I was very active. I played a lot of golf. Really, we were just getting into the groove of being adults. And then I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's at the age of 27. 4 times what is 28?
7.
That's right. There you go. Nice. Mason, his smile can brighten up any room. Now, Karina, she's a chip off the old block. She loves obstacle course racing, and for fun, we watch American Ninja Warrior. Karina really got into the show, and every time the show comes on, she would say, "Dad, you should really try out. You should try to get on the show." I applied to make Karina happy. American Ninja Warrior actually called me, and they told me, "Hey, guess what? You've been selected to be a participant."
Jimmy Choi. He's a 41-year-old rookie who's also back.
Being on American Ninja Warrior is the most terrifying thing I've ever done, but it prove that I can follow my dreams and nothing can stop me.
Jimmy's story is an extreme example of the way the community is galvanized. Literally, everyone can't do what he did. I can't do it. But one reasonable answer to it is to get engaged in the community, get engaged in the fight, get engaged in research, get engaged in clinical trials. It's part of a call to involvement, and involvement has its own rewards.
I've learned there are positives and negatives to Parkinson's. People have said to me all the time, hey, Jimmy, you ran a marathon in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Can you imagine how fast you'd be without Parkinson's? And I said, I don't think I'd be running a marathon if I didn't have Parkinson's.
Can keep my hands on myself. Pick out dust and mold, put 'em back up on the shelf. Kiss my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over and now, gonna feel it slip.
From Bolingbrook, Illinois, this is Jimmy Choi. He's running tonight for Team Fox. There's his wife and daughter, Karina, who got Jimmy to come out for this.
You can see the trimmers in those hands.
There he goes.
Oh, Jimmy Choi. Woo! Nice grab.
Just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might have had your fill, I feel it still. We could fight a war for peace.
Boy, it would be great for him to get a buzzer. Sideways is so technically challenging.
This is it, and you can see he's leading with that right hand to
And
get
you
on
can
the other side.
You can see the power.
Oh,
Oh,
my goodness, with one hand. That was a nice one-handed save. Well, look at Jimmy right here. Nice.
Such good
How
form.
great will this be? I want to see Jimmy Choi hit that buzzer.
It would be a moment of a lifetime for Jimmy. Going for that dismount.
We've not seen him on a warp wall.
He gets a tap to
We
warp
can
wall.
see him hit the warp wall.
You got this, Jimmy.
Hit that buzzer. This is it. This is history. This is it. Yeah! If you're struggling with Parkinson, you gotta be inspired. Yeah! You get your moment. You got your moment.
Thank you, everybody, thank you. Once again, guys, my name is Jimmy Choi, and this is my dog, Max. You know, I get really nervous every time I get up in front of a room and speak to a bunch of people that, you know, sometimes I just don't know what to do with myself. But I always turn to my wife and I say, hey, look, I'm feeling a little nervous, and she always tells me the same thing. She goes, Jimmy, just relax, okay? Don't get up there, don't try to be funny, don't do that. Don't try to be too smart. Basically, just go out there and be yourself, is what she says. But you know, first of all, I want to thank the Parkinson's Foundation of Western Pennsylvania for allowing me the opportunity. Big round of applause for everybody that has spoken here today, and for the staff for putting on this event. It really is an honor for me to be able to share my story with you guys. It's a privilege, and I thank you guys for that. So, once again, my name is Jimmy Choi, 47 years old today, guys, and I was diagnosed, thank you. I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's, as you guys all heard, 20 years ago at the age of 27. Now, whenever I get up in a room full of people with Parkinson's and their care partners, usually I am one of the younger people in the room. So the question is, why should I listen to this guy out there that's, you know, 30%, 40% younger than I am? Well, let me ask you guys this, okay? You guys can do this by a show of hands. Raise your hands if you have Parkinson's in this room. Keep your hands up if you have been living with the disease for more than 5 years. Keep your hands up if you lived with the disease for more than 10 years. Keep those hands up more than 15 years. 20 years? All right. As you guys can see, yes, big round of applause for fighting. But as you guys can see, there were about 5 or 6 hands left in the room, including myself, which means in a room where I might be the youngest in age, I am actually a senior in this room living with the disease. Okay? Now, the first thing that people ask me is, Jimmy, what prompted you to get diagnosed with Parkinson's at such a young age? Well, it's actually an insurance physical that started the process. When I first got married, my dad said, Jimmy, when you start a family, you need to go and get yourself some life insurance. And the life insurance sent out a nurse to do my physical. And during the physical, the nurse would notice things about me in the way that I moved. Okay? And she said to me, look, I do life insurance physicals on the side, and that in my day job, I am a nurse in a neurologist's office. So I'm seeing a lot of things about you that is very familiar with me. Now, she never gave me a diagnosis. She never said the word Parkinson's or anything else, because she wasn't allowed to. All she said was, you should talk to your doctor about our discussion here. Now, I was only 27 years old. I was newly married, and I thought I knew it all, right? I would play golf, as Cheryl would tell you. I was play golf. We would travel, would start a family, and have kids. I have a boy, a girl, and yep, I had everything I thought figured out. So everything that I was feeling, the changes that was happening in my body, could be explained away with an everyday life of a 27-year-old, right? The twitches can come from stress, stiffness in my body. I mean, I just played 36 rounds of golf the day before. I'm gonna be sore and I'm gonna be stiff, right? So it piqued my interest in my discussion with that nurse, and I talked to my doctor. And after months of countless visits to specialists, to neurologists, to physical therapists, anything and everything under the sun, in doing tests that I can only describe as sobriety-like, right? I found myself sitting in disbelief in my neurologist's office when I was told, Jimmy, you have Parkinson's. Now, this was a clinical diagnosis, right? Which means it's very subjective. My doctor's suspicion was supported by my reaction to medication, and a few years later, it was supported by 2 separate DAT scans taken 6 months apart that indeed did show changes in my brain. Now, up to this point, I was so sure that nothing was wrong with me. In fact, I didn't even tell my wife for another 3 months. And I kept it from her. And only until I decided that I needed to start taking medication so that I can live normally did I finally tell her about my diagnosis. Now, medication allowed me to live life as usual for now. It allowed me to ignore my progression. I did absolutely nothing. Didn't even do research. They gave me a pamphlet the day I was diagnosed. Didn't even open it. Went home, threw it in the drawer, and tried to ignore the disease. Now, I did that for the next 8 years. As you guys have heard from Cheryl already, those are the dark years that she was referring to, okay? In those 8 years, I tried to hide from the disease, but as the 8 years progressed on, my symptoms began to progress, and they were becoming harder and harder to hide. Each one of them, as they became more pronounced, felt like was an additional burden that I was carrying, especially trying to hide everything. In fact, I brought all my symptoms here for you guys today, and I'm going to show you. All right, let's see what we got here. Now, for those of you keeping count, these are 10-pound weights. There's the classic tremor that everybody associates with Parkinson's. We've got stiffness. We've got slowness of movement, or bradykinesia. We've got dystonia. Now, those of you living with Parkinson's may have experienced dystonia. Those of you who do not, think of dystonia as a Charlie horse, which I think everybody has experienced. But instead of going away in, say, 50 seconds or a minute, it lasts for hours at a time. What else do I have in here? This is a really crappy symptom, constipation. Poop jokes always go over well. What else do we have? Loss of balance is another one. Can you imagine if I was Santa Claus and this was Christmas? This would be the worst present bag ever. Posture issues. What else do we have? We have insomnia. A couple more, loss of cognitive function, right? Your ability to think slows down. And I think I've got one more in here, and this one is my favorite. This one isn't really even a symptom of Parkinson's, but a side effect of the medication that we take. This is dyskinesia. So every day, I have to choose whether or not I want to shake about uncontrollably or if I want to flail about uncontrollably with dyskinesia. It really is a no winner's choice there. But I wanted to put this visual of these burdens that I was carrying because I want you to know that every day, all of us, everybody deals with some type of burden. We're all carrying a backpack of something like this, right? For those of us living in the room with Parkinson's, it could be symptoms very much similar to the backpack I'm carrying. But everybody else in the room, the care partners, you guys are carrying some of our burdens. You guys are carrying a different set of your own version of the backpack, okay? So I wanted to make sure that you understand that the type of burdens that we're carrying and that understand that everybody in this room has this backpack, okay? Now, at this point in my life, I was carrying all of this extra burden. I was 35 years old, 8 years after diagnosis. I was unable to hide my tremors. I was unable to relax from stiffness and the cramps. I was unable to write clearly or to focus at work. I was unable to smile, and worst of all, I was unable to play with my kids, okay? Now, it's gotten to the point now where I was falling over so much that I needed a cane to walk. And that led to such an inactive lifestyle that I started gaining weight. And in fact, I was up to 240 pounds at the time. And I was yelling and snapping at my family for no good reason. Cheryl mentioned these mood swings. These were constantly happening. All I can see is that I get these out-of-body experiences where I would float out and I can hear myself yelling and screaming, right? Standing over my 2-year-old daughter, screaming at her. For what? She spilled some milk. She spilled apple juice. And I couldn't control it. I wanted to stop myself, but I couldn't. That frustration from all of that led to depression. And depression led to more anger. Now, I knew that at this point in my life that this was not the life that I intended to lead. And that, to be honest with you guys, at that point in my life, that wasn't the life that I wanted to live either. So this wasn't all bad enough. In March of 2010, I hit rock bottom. And it's been mentioned a few times already today, and that rock bottom moment is I was walking down the stairs with my then 10-month-old son, and the two of us tumbled down. Now, as Cheryl mentioned, I was able to keep Mason above my body the entire way down, and he was okay. I took the brunt of the fall physically and only suffer some minor bumps and maybe a little bit of bruising, but mentally, I would never be the same, okay? I knew at that point that I had to change. Now, I couldn't change the fact that I had Parkinson's, but I figured I could try to change the way that I lived with it. So I started to educate myself, okay? Finally learning this thing called Parkinson's. The more I learned, the more in control I felt. And although there was an onslaught of information coming in, I signed up for clinical trials. I finally opened that pamphlet that I threw in the drawer. All this clinical trials signed up, and all these information started coming in. There were a couple of consistent themes. Number one is exercise, exercise, exercise. Okay? Today, we know, and you guys heard it all day today already, we know that high-intensity exercise is the only treatment proven to possibly slow progression of Parkinson's. Okay? So, number two thing that I learned is that I am not alone in all of this. That I don't have to do it on my own. My friends were apprehensive. My family was apprehensive because I was being apprehensive. Talking about it openly made it a lot less scary for me. Okay? There were others out there living with the disease that have lived with it longer than I have, and I can just simply reach out and ask them how they deal with it, and how their experiences can help me figure out how to manage the disease for myself. Now, I knew that I wasn't smart enough to find a cure, and I certainly wasn't rich enough or wealthy enough to fund the cure, so I did the next best thing, which was sign up for clinical trials after clinical trial. Now, one day I signed up for a clinical trial that involved physical therapy and forced exercise. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, essentially I walked into a physical therapy office and they tied me to an exercise bike. And this thing was on a machine and it had power of its own, and the thing just went, and I was just supposed to keep up. It forced me to exercise. And I realized after a couple of sessions that the more that I moved, I was feeling a little bit better after those sessions. Okay? So I took that information and I started exercise on my own at home. I was like, you know what? If I'm feeling a little bit better just doing these little sessions every other week, why don't I do more of it at home? So when I got home, I tried to incorporate more exercise, and I started walking around the block with my cane. When I got comfortable, I started leaving my cane at home, and I tried to walk around the block, see how far I can get. That walking slowly became jogging, and then I figured, why not? Why don't I start and see if I can start adding some distance to this, okay? The more comfortable I get, the more I did today, the more I wanted to do tomorrow. So I asked myself from that point on, every day, what can I do today that is just a little bit more than yesterday? And that led to the running. Maybe it wasn't just flat out running to start, it was run for a minute, walk for a minute, run for a minute, walk for a minute, and then run for 2 minutes, walk for a minute. And I just kept going. A mile became 2, 2 became 3, and then in 2012, I was getting ready to fly for work, and I was sitting in an airplane, and right in the seat back pocket, there was a magazine. It was a Runner's World magazine. Somebody left there. I picked it up, I flipped 2 pages, and I saw an article about a person with Parkinson's running a marathon, right? For some reason, that magazine was there. And that magazine inspired me so much that I'm just gonna do more running on my own and do the best that I can. So by April of 2012, I ran my very first 5K. And by September, by May, I did my first 10K. Remember, my mantra was, what can I do today that's a little bit more than yesterday? And I kept pushing myself. By September of the same year, I ran my first half marathon. And remember, I'm still new to running. As soon as I crossed the finish line, I knew that I wanted to take it to the next level and run my very first marathon in 2012. And it was going to be in October, so it was only a month away, and who knew? I had no idea. Who knew that a marathon could be sold out? Who wants to pay $300 to run 26 miles? Raise your hand, right? It's crazy. So, I felt a little crushed because I wasn't able to sign up for the Chicago Marathon. But then I was told, Jimmy, hope is not lost because you can always get your way in through charity. Again, new to running, and no idea this is all possible. So I said, if I'm going to run for charity, I am going to run for a charity that has to do with Parkinson's, one way or another. And this is the first time that I found the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And with it being a month away, and with the race being so popular and sold out, I called up the Fox Foundation, and I said, hey, I know it's a month away, I'm interested in running the Chicago Marathon. Do you guys have any more bibs left? They said, Jimmy, we've got 1 bib left. And to this day, I feel that that bib was there for a reason, and it was there for me. This is my letter of commitment for Michael J. Fox Foundation. As you can see, in exchange for the bib, I committed to raising $2,000. Okay? And this is for the first time I had to raise the money. And I had 1 month to do it. Remember, I signed up in September. The race was in October. I had 1 month to do it. So what do we do when we need to fundraise? We go to our friends and family, right? So finally, for the first time, I had to really open up to my family, okay? That's what we do when we fundraise. So there's a problem. In family, situations, nobody wants to talk about Parkinson's, right? Cheryl talked about how we go to gatherings and we're the first to leave, and there's this people see me with a cane, they don't want to talk about it. So I'm going to paint a picture for you guys that many of you are familiar with. I am sure of it, okay? We walk into a room with friends and family. Everybody looks at you coming. They know something is wrong, but do you really want to talk about it? Do they really want to talk about it? So you make contact with I'm just going to throw a random relative, my cousin Tim. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Right? You can see the pity already in their emotions. So now I'm thinking, does he really want to know? Do I want to spill my beans, right? So then my typical response, this is before I had to open up, so my typical response was, yeah, I'm good. And then we stare at each other. For 15 seconds, which can feel like a whole minute and a half, right? And then we just turn our separate ways and we go our separate ways. So as you can see how over time, a person with Parkinson's, especially when you're not talking about your disease with all those around you, close in your inner circle, how you can be further and further separated from those who are close to you, right? So I wanted to avoid this awkward dance, you know what I'm saying? So many of you have experienced this, I'm sure, okay? So now I started telling my story so that people are comfortable. Instead of avoiding this awkward dance that we have, instead of avoiding the elephant in the room, I start talking about it. I started to make sure people understand. So instead of being an outsider now, watching things from afar, right? I could be a part of the conversation. Instead of being Spider-Man over there in a swarm of Batmans, I could be a part of it. So they can everybody can feel included, and I can feel supported in return. So that's what I did. I changed my approach, and I share my experiences openly with people, right? In order for me to be successful, not only do I have to tell my story, but I've got to tell people why. I'm helping myself by exercising. I'm helping manage my on and off periods with medication. They have become shorter and more manageable, right? I'm getting better at managing the timing of my medication. I'm sleeping better. I'm moving better. I'm building muscle memory that improve my balance and my gait. So in becoming this version of myself where I'm sharing more openly and bringing people closer to me in my diagnosis, in this 1 month's time, I was able to raise $5,000 for Parkinson's research in my first attempt, right? That's pretty good. Now, let's think about this for a second. In 1 month's time, I raised $5,000 for Parkinson's research, okay? I've opened up my life to my friends and family so we no longer have to do this awkward dance. I've met other people like me living with the disease, trying to live their best lives. I did more good for myself in that 1 month's time than I did in my first 8 years combined, right? So this became a constant reminder for me. What am I going to do today to make things better? What am I going to do today to be better than yesterday? Even if it's just taking one more step when I'm running, or just getting one more rep in the gym when I'm working out and exercising. Now, since 2012, these one mores that I've talked about has led to some pretty amazing accomplishments. This next section is going to sound like I'm showing off a little bit, and I am. So let's just be clear. Since 2012, I am a 5-time competitor on American Ninja Warrior, and I was able to hit that celebratory buzzer, as you guys saw in the video in the beginning, on my very last appearance. I am a 3-time Guinness Fitness World Record holder. I hold a record for most chest-to-ground burpees in 1 minute, okay? Everybody loves burpees, right? Most lateral plyometric push-ups in 1 minute, and most recently, this past February, I traveled out to Milan, Italy, and competed on their television program, and I was able to achieve the most consecutive high-five push-ups consecutive, so not in the time. I've run thousands of miles, guys, thousands and thousands of miles, including one ultra marathon, 16 marathons, 105 half marathons, and countless 5Ks, 10Ks. I was the first person with Parkinson's on record to complete a 100-mile bike ride in under 5 hours. That is, thank you. That is holding a 20-mile-per-hour average on a bike. And a funny story about this is when I crossed the finish line, I didn't look at the time on the clock the entire time. I just wanted to crank and I just wanted to finish. I just wanted to do my best. When I crossed the finish line, I was told, Jimmy, you have 4 minutes to spare. 4 minutes to spare. I could have had a sandwich in those 4 minutes. But you know what? All these physical accomplishments are great. As Cheryl mentioned, none of this compares to the fact that my wife and I have helped raise more than $800,000 for Parkinson's research. Thank you. Now, that's a far cry from the 240-pound cane-wielding Jimmy of 2010, right? And I couldn't have gotten where I am today if it wasn't for the lessons and the things that I learned along the way. And it certainly wasn't easy because life in itself, forget Parkinson's, life in itself has a way of throwing obstacles your way, right? So you guys remember these things? Let me see. Many in the room knows exactly what these things are, right? A telephone book. This happens to be 975 pages telephone book. Now, if I said to you that this is an obstacle that stands between you and whatever it is you want to get through on the other side, you're going to have to get through this book, okay? What are you going to do? You're going to tear this book in half? I'm not. Instead, I want you guys to apply what I've talked about already, which is that one more mentality, okay? So today I'm just going to start with the cover. You guys thought I was going to rip this book in half, didn't you? And what you do is tomorrow you do 2 pages. And the next day you do 3 pages, and so on and so forth, okay? So every day you try to do a little bit more, all right? As I'm doing this, I want to tell you something that I learned. It was during that, one of my marathons that I learned a lesson that that I'm going to carry along with me forever now. Every time that I think about what I'm trying to do in the gym and what I'm trying to do when it comes to fitness and exercise, okay? I ran my fastest marathon in 2015. It was 3 hours and 40 minutes. But at the charity event afterwards, the winner of the marathon came up to me and said, "Hey, Jimmy, congratulations." I'm like, "Oh, you just did it in like 2 hours and 12 minutes. What are you congratulating me for? You won the whole damn thing." So he's like, "Oh, no, it's a great accomplishment." He goes, "What was your time?" And I felt silly, right? Because the guy did it in half the time, almost half the time that it took me. So I was like, "Oh, it was 3 hours and 40 minutes. He goes, "Wow, that's amazing." And he was sincere, okay? And I'm like, "Why are you impressed? Because you did it in 2 hours and 12 minutes. And he said, "Look, Jimmy, I did it in 2 hours and 12 minutes because that's the way my engine runs. When I run full out, that's the time I do it. And when your engine runs full out, you do it in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Now, if you ask me to run at my engine's pace for 3 hours and 40 minutes, I couldn't do it." So he said, "By that definition, Jimmy, you are more fit than I am," right? And I thought, oh my goodness, he is right. No matter what I do in the gym, I should never compare myself to anybody else except myself, right? And if I do just that, if I can do that, I can always constantly hit these little tiny goals that I set for myself to get to the next level. And soon, doing just a little bit more each day, as you guys can see, it is possible to get through an entire obstacle, right? It might take a little longer, but you can get through it. But how do you know how many pages you can rip, right? If I never tried, how do I know that my max isn't 40 pages? How do I know your max isn't 70 pages, okay? How do you know if you don't try to keep doing more and more each day? Maybe your max is 250 pages, right? Maybe somebody over here, your max is like 400 pages. You just never know. To be able to reach 975 pages in one go, you will never know if you can do that unless, apparently I can't do it. You'll never know if you can do it until you really give it a try. Thank you. Now that was harder than usual. Maybe I need to eat another cookie before we're done. But also, beautiful side effect of doing these things is I am now a phone book recycling guy as well. Now, you see, what I thought once was impossible, right? I found a way to make it possible with just these one more each days. Okay, so let me tell you this. On the surface, what you guys see that I do on social media or on television, things that I do that might look easy or effortless, right? But it's anything but that. What people see on social media is a 30-second clip of my entire day. They're not seeing the fatigue that hits, right? Cheryl mentioned my 1 p.m. naps, which is right now, by the way. But people aren't seeing that. People aren't seeing the preparation that it takes so that I can do something for 30 seconds, for 60 seconds to look good on social media, right? But I couldn't do all of these things without the support of my inner circle support team. And I couldn't stress enough about the people that I've surrounded myself with, okay? From my care partner, okay, to my medical team, which comprise of not just my movement disorder specialist, but physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, all of that. My coaches, and everyone that has ever offered a word of encouragement to me. All of them has taken part in what makes me who I am today. Now remember this moment from the start of the video?
This is it. This is history. This is it. Yeah! If you're struggling with Parkinson, you gotta be inspired. Yeah!
Right? That looks cool. And this is like the 60-second clip that you see on social media. But here's the rest of the story. And I want to tell you guys why this is so important. After years and years of failing, 2015, 2016, 2017, I was swimming in that water.
5 years ago when I started this journey, it was my daughter who got me started. She never had a doubt in my abilities.
Every bruise and every scar makes us who we are.
There it is!
I'm really excited. I've never been able to compete with
I
him.
failed
I've always
over
just
and over
been,
again. And my
cheering
care
him
team
on.
has provided support that allowed me to continue.
Say that it can't be done. I'm not
That hurt, by the way.
I will overcome.
Whether it's encouragement
Your
from a
moment,
mentor,
This is your moment. This is what you live for. This is what you train for. This is what you stay up late thinking about it. And now it's your moment. Now you got it. Now you can grab it, seize it, hold it, run with it. Nobody can take it away from you. You're a hero to me. You're a hero to everybody with Parkinson's. You're a hero to your family. You're a hero to anybody with a pulse. Go. Kick butt.
For me to be able to finish and hit a buzzer on top of that warp wall, I think there's no better or more perfect way for me to close that chapter in my American Ninja Warrior career.
Every bruise and every scar makes us who we are.
now what you don't see is that my care circle are actually the people who are stepping up to get me to up that warped wall at the end. Because without them, they're the ones that are fighting alongside me.
Aminke does a lot of distance biking and
This is my
mountain
cousin.
climbing, but this is her first time on a
Doing
ninja course.
something out of her comfort zone
35
to
years
support
old
me.
And only 5'1".
Menke, a good start. Gets her team a point. And she's taking this seriously.
And she's
She flew
willing
from California
to do something
Illinois
that she's
to
never
train
done
with
before
Jimmy and other
and
Chicago
taking
area
a
ninjas
fall
like Flex
for me.
But this second obstacle, wait for it, is technical. You really have to know how to lâcher, something that can take a lot of training. She's only 108 pounds.
And then there's my daughter, contributing where she knows she can help propel me forward. Attempting something that is way bigger than she is. Look at the size of this obstacle and look at her.
The third point so far for the Choi family.
Karina competed on the first season of American Ninja Warrior Junior. Was only 4'3" back then. Now a whopping 4'2".
A big obstacle. That's a tough one.
Okay, good. Nice correction.
Well, that's a 3-foot leap onto the narrow ledge.
Now they failed so that I can have this moment.
Sideways is so technically challenging. This is it, and you can see he's leading with that right hand to get on the other side. You can see the power. Oh my goodness, with one hand. That was a nice one-handed save. Well, look at Jimmy right here. Nice. Such good.
I just want to watch this part again, guys.
I want to see Jimmy Choi hit that buzzer.
It would be a moment of a lifetime for Jimmy. Going for that dismount.
We've not seen him on a rope wall. He gets to attempt to win the game at the rope wall. You got this, Jimmy. Hit that buzzer.
This is my favorite part.
This is history. This is it.
Now, like I said, they failed so that I can have this opportunity. Now, this run, what you're seeing here, this run represents so well of just how important people who support those who live with Parkinson's is. They are instrumental to our success, okay? In some way and on some level, they all help carry some of my burdens so that I can be successful. Now, remember my symptoms? Remember, everybody is carrying their version of these burdens, okay? So, no matter how I carry my burdens around, I have learned over the past 12 years, since after those 8 years of those dark years, I have learned over the last 12 years of how I can handle these burdens, okay? So for example, loss of cognitive functions. Now, a lot of high intensity exercise, it releases a lot of these other chemicals in your brain that gives you, these chemicals will help you think clearer and help you think better and faster. So doing a lot of high intensity exercise has helped me with that. The loss of balance. Okay, when I train in the gym, I am making sure that I'm using my core. I am making sure that I am able to keep my balance by doing exercises that are concentrated on one side of the body over the other to help improve my balance. The crappy symptom, the constipation. I changed the way that I ate. We talked about exercise, and this may have been the first time that we mentioned nutrition, but nutrition is also a very important part of training our bodies. Dyskinesia. As I mentioned, the more I trained myself, the better I was able to make my medicines more effective for me, so that I'm able to take less medication over time, and that helps with my dyskinesia. Insomnia. Let's be honest, guys, running for 4 hours, 5 hours at a time, gonna be pretty tired. I'm able to sleep. Posture issues. When I'm training in the gym, I am making sure that I complete all of my reps to its full range of motion, okay? So that I can develop the proper form and the proper mechanics for each movement. So by developing that proper form, I am able to improve my posture. Dystonia, this is that cramp that I talked about earlier. By strengthening the counter muscles for the muscle groups that tend to have dystonia, by strengthening the counter muscles, I'm able to pull myself out of those cramps a little bit sooner, providing a little bit more relief during its onset. Stiffness and rigidity, going back to the gym and learning how to control my body. Knowing that when I am stiff and I'm slowing down, cognitively slowing down the rest of my body to match so that the body doesn't become out of sync. Tremors. Many people with Parkinson's, actually, most people, majority of people with Parkinson's experience tremors as a resting tremor, which means if you're engaged, right? So if I extend this weight out, I can feel the tremors. You guys can probably barely see it from out there, okay? So as long as you're engaging your muscles, you can help with that sensation. Now, bradykinesia, slowness of movement, okay? This one is tough, and especially in the gym. When it happens, your safety becomes an issue. So knowing when these things onset and what to do in your body and the exercises that you can modify or change to and still complete your workout for the day can help you deal with bouts of slowness should you experience those outside of the gym, okay? So, hold on. There we go. So coming back to these things, I'm going to put my burdens back on. And I just want you, hello, there we go. I want you guys to get a video. To know that we are all carrying. The question is, what do you do with the burdens you carry? Burdens, and we're at home, you can forget about cooking dinner for the kids. Forget about writing that report that you need to submit for work, okay? Because the only thing that you're thinking about is you're thinking about this burden that you're carrying. Now, I challenge you, whatever it is your backpack looks like, I challenge you to I'll need this in a second. I challenge you to, instead of using it, thinking it of an excuse as, oh, I can't do things because of these things I'm carrying, I want you guys to think the opposite, okay? I want you guys to think about what can I still do today despite carrying these burdens. So you guys know I'm the gym rat, right? I'm like all the smart people that talk in the morning, jock that comes on. I need to work on my body today. I train those. I still do push-ups with these burdens. Clapping push-ups. I also have to know my own limitations. Sorry, hotel, about the stage. You have to know your own limitations. I know that if I try to stand up too quickly right now, orthostatic hypotension can knock me right back down to the ground, and then you guys will be watching me do nothing for the next 5 minutes. So I'm just going to take a second here. But once again, know your limitations, right? Remember, whatever it is that you do in the gym, whatever it is that you do from an aspect of exercise, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it against yourself. No one is asking you to put up 100 pounds and do clapping push-ups on stage, okay? You're not comparing anybody to yourself except yourself. All right, let's give this a try. All right, we made it. Thank you. To be honest, guys, the stronger I got, my symptoms didn't necessarily go away, okay? But what I'm doing in the gym is that I'm making my body better adapted to situations that Parkinson's can present to me. Let's be honest, Parkinson's doesn't stop. In order for me to stay ahead, I have to do, for me at least, I have to maintain my level of fitness, what some people would say, crazy amounts of work, of exercise. But I found something that works for me, okay? and something that's giving me the ability to combat Parkinson's. But I still hear things like, oh, Jimmy, you don't look like a person with Parkinson's. Thank you. I work hard at that. But can you imagine how fast you would be, how much stronger you would be if you didn't have Parkinson's? And as I mentioned in the video, my response is always the same. I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if I was never diagnosed with Parkinson's, right? For the past 3 years, we all navigated through COVID, right? We all are now still trying to get to normal. So I ask you this, why do we want to get back to normal when we can use this opportunity to get back to being better than normal, right? That desire to be better than normal is what drives me when I train. I train with a purpose, consistently assessing where my weakness is living with Parkinson's. So for example, I used to lose my balance, and I still do. I fall. In fact, a lot of the things I do requires me to fall, but I still fall. So I started asking myself during COVID, during those initial nights, what can I do from a fitness perspective that's going to help me in case I do take a fall, right? So if you guys think about it, that's a burpee, right? So a burpee, for those who are not familiar, is a controlled fall. All right? I started to add more burpees in everyday workout. That's more today than yesterday. I only started with 5 at the end of my workout. And then I did 10. And then I did 15. And I did more and more and more and more. And then during the course of COVID lockdowns, I realized that, hey, I'm getting pretty good at these. So what started as a desire, survival skill, has presented me an opportunity with breaking a Guinness World Record. The previous record was 28. And this is a variety called chest to ground hand release. So the hands must go out to the side, my chest must hit the ground, and you see those lines on the ground, my hands and feet must return to its starting position every single time. At this point, I was contemplating what the hell was I doing? A minute seems like a long time to do a lot of burpees, and it really is. At the end of the day, guys, I did 30 of those in 1 minute. COVID, when things were down, I was looking for ways to keep myself moving forward. And I'll tell you what, it really is a choice for me, right? Because 18 years ago, 20 years ago, I chose to ignore my diagnosis. And then 12 years ago, I chose to be a better father, a better husband, a better patient of how I live with Parkinson's. 12 years ago, I became a voice of the Parkinson's community. And 5 years ago, I chose to better understand the way that my body moves, okay, while under stressful conditions when I started training for obstacles like the American Ninja Warrior, okay? I have chosen to turn my weaknesses into strengths. And every day, I choose to take these opportunities. And because I was doing a lot of burpees at the time, as you guys can see, I became really good at doing push-ups. So now a new opportunity has presented itself, which was the lateral plyometric push-up for my second Guinness World Records, which looks like this. Now, right before I attempted this record, Guinness World Records informed me that, Jimmy, you were supposed to beat 38 in 1 minute, but guess what? That record was broken the night before I was gonna attempt it. So instead of needing to break 38, I had to do, what was the new number? I forget now. 42 was the new number. So, again, I was contemplating what the hell I was doing at this time. There's a lot of pain, as you guys can hear. But you know what? This year, I think do I have one more in me? And I'm out of time. That last one didn't count because that time actually ran out. But this year, guys, chasing all these records, and it's all great. As I mentioned, this year I don't have the video rights to this other one, the one I mentioned in Italy, but that was a high five push-up. It's essentially I'm pushing my entire body off of the ground and doing high fives. And the number to 20, and my partner and I, we did this together because we were doing high fives. Funny story, this guy also holds other push-up world records, but the two of us teamed up together and we did 50 consecutive high five push-ups. Thank you. Now, remember, I'm saying that these are my choices that I've chosen to make over the last few years. And this year, I've chosen to retire as an American Ninja Warrior, okay? Not because I can't do it anymore, but because I realized that I have to live in this body with Parkinson's disease for many, many years to come, and that I needed to preserve my body so that I can be ready for the long haul living with Parkinson's. It doesn't mean that I stop using exercise as treatment, okay? It just means that I'm gonna find different ways of doing it, okay? I'm also going to be spending more time honoring care partners and support teams by helping them support others, especially in the Parkinson's community. For example, teaching others lessons that I've learned that can be very helpful. If you guys can help me mute this, we don't really need the music in the background. Thank you. This is an example. Some of you guys may not know this gentleman. His name is Bill Bucklew. He has Parkinson's, and he walked across the United States 64 days, averaging 42 miles a day. But you see this exercise that he's doing? I've got a weight tied to one side of a PVC pipe, and I'm making him walk on these balance beams. And the way that the weight is shifting is really pushing his weight around and forcing him to use all these little tiny muscles that you need to stay balanced that you don't think you're using. So I wanted to take more of my time to show people how I do the things that I do, okay? Those that are helping many of us living in the Parkinson's community with others, with the knowledge that I've learned along the way. So just remember, guys, on any given day, we are all given opportunities to make choices. What you choose today can make a difference, big or small, it doesn't matter, okay? Should I sit, or should I go out for a run today, or a walk, okay? Do I want to eat this cookie that I was given at lunch, or do I go for that apple that's also in the box, right? But I know we're all going for the cookie. I did too. But no matter what choices you make today, it's going to be up to you, right? Do you have one more step? Do you have one more rep? Okay? Constantly things that I ask myself. For me, I choose to create new challenges for myself while living with Parkinson's. So in closing, I'm going to leave you guys with this. There is a movement brewing within the Parkinson's community. And all you guys have to do to join that movement is move. Thank you guys very much for your time. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Here's one. We got some time for some questions. Are you guys still awake over there, back in the cheap seats? Yeah?
Jimmy, have you inspired?
Oh.
Is it working? have you inspired other people with Parkinson's to participate in the kinds of programs that you've done, competitions and stuff?
Yes, actually, so I am known as the Fox Ninja, okay? Today, little bit less known knowledge out there is that there's actually 3 Fox Ninjas out there. I am Fox Ninja, and there is a Fox Ninja B whose mom happens to be in this audience today. Rhonda, where are you? Rhonda? Did she leave? She's in the bathroom, maybe? Okay. But so the answer is yes, there's a Fox Ninja B. His name is Brian Montanez. His mom was here earlier. I saw her just earlier today. And then Fox Ninja C, his name is Brian Hill out of Seattle, who competed on American Ninja Warrior last year. Now, their runs were not shown. Actually, Fox Ninja B, whose name is also Brian, his run was shown a few years ago, but Brian Hill's was not. But yes, I mean, there are more and more people like me that are coming out and doing more and more extreme type of physical activity.
Jimmy. Over here, Jimmy.
Where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a special diet you eat?
So, great question. My diet is what I would consider clean eating, okay? Many years ago, I did strict Mediterranean. Many years ago, I did strict keto. My wife hated that, by the way. I did strict keto. I did, you name it, I've tried it. Atkins, low carb, high carb, oil, everything under the sun I've done. But what I found with all of these diet, I guess, trends you might call it, is that they may or may not be sustainable for you. And for me, it wasn't sustainable. I've got kids, I've got young kids, and for me to eat keto, I have to prepare basically like 4 different meals every meal so that they can eat and then I can eat as well. So it wasn't sustainable. But today, I think maintaining overall good general health, I just eat clean, whole foods, stay away from the processed, right? But don't get me wrong, the ice cream is great, everything in moderation. But here's an important, for those of you who are going through any fitness journey or any weight loss journey, I never ever use food as a punishment, okay? So if I ate a slice of pizza today, or actually let's be honest, if I ate an entire pizza today, I am not going to punish myself by saying I gotta go and run 30 miles to burn that pizza off. I just get back on track tomorrow and continue my journey, okay? Does that answer your question?
Well, we have one here.
Okay.
Jimmy.
Well, we got one right here first.
Okay, Jimmy. I played 71 years of golf. At one time, I was pretty good. And I tried to play golf, not go out and hit some balls. And I had my fear, I had my hell of a fear of swinging a club and then falling. And falling is something that I just can't do.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. I was like, do you still play golf?
I don't play golf anymore. So as Cheryl mentioned, I used to play a lot of golf. So the question for those of you who didn't hear is that he has, as a Tom, right? Tom has a fear that when he swings a golf club, he could take a fall, okay? So I don't golf anymore because one of the mistakes that I made early on was when I was told I had Parkinson's, I gave up everything immediately. I didn't continue trying, right? And I regret that decision because to be honest, I think I would still enjoy the game of golf. Now, that is a safety issue, right? So, my suggestion is that look for others who are in your situation and reach out and ask them for their experiences because I don't do it, I can't give you my experience. But if you guys haven't read Michael J. Fox's latest book, he talks about golfing, right? He didn't pick up golfing until 7 or 8 years ago. And he says, every day I'm getting better at it by getting worse at it. Okay, and I think he talks about the same thing about falling on the golf course. But he makes a very optimistic point of view is that when I'm on the golf course, I'm falling on grass. I am not falling on concrete floor, right? So again, it's a safety issue. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you.
Hi, Jim. What would be your guess as to what caused your Parkinson's? Hereditary, environmental, or anything else?
My best guess is environmental. As I think Cheryl mentioned that I was captain of the football team. I was a lineman, so every play I got hit in the head. And then I played back in the late 80s and early 90s, which means concussions was get back out there and get in the next play. So that's my guess.
We have one over here. I'm heading there. Okay, go ahead.
Jimmy, I was going to ask that question too, what you thought gave you Parkinson's, but I want to know, were you able to reverse the disease? Did you have a DAT scan done, and were you able to actually reverse it?
So reversing, I'm going to be very honest, no, I'm not able to reverse the disease, okay? Progression is still happening, and I can feel it in just what I call the window of movement. So every day, there's a time when we all try to optimize our medication for that on and off period, right? To stay right in the middle, right in that nice sweet spot. And that window, for me, is getting shorter and shorter as time goes on. So I know progression is still happening, but as I mentioned, the things that I'm doing with exercise is I'm just making my body, prepping my body so that it's better able to handle the situations. So, with that said, I think with all the exercise that I'm doing, I am essentially trying to buy myself more time so that whatever treatment's coming down the pipe, that I am still capable and still strong enough to handle these treatments when they come in. And that's the best I can do for myself.
Jimmy, how long after you were diagnosed with Parkinson's did you continue to drive, or did you not?
I still drive today. There have been instances where I thought about not driving anymore, but I still drive today. And I'm going to be honest, because I do cheat a little bit. I do drive a Tesla. So I'm not saying everybody go buy a Tesla and use the self-driving, but it does the safety features that they have to keep you in lane, and the safety features that it has to help you brake and to avoid obstacles on the road provides a little bit of extra confidence for me. And because of that, I continue to drive. Yeah.
As a caregiver, how would you suggest that my wife and I, when we get discouraged over all of this, we get out of our discouragement best by doing what?
I think the best thing that you can do is talk to each other.
Yes.
Right? Talk to each other. I think support from one side or the other, from a reciprocal support is very important, right? As a care partner, let her know that you are going to be there. And then as a patient, I will let my care partner, I will let her know things that are bothering me and what helps me along the way. But open communication really is the best, I think.
And if I may add to that, the Parkinson Foundation, Western Pennsylvania, partners with Hope Grows. Hope Grows is out here with the table. They provide in-home counseling that we have sponsored to help with, there's 4 sessions, they're free, they meet with you in your home, and they help with communication issues and transition issues and all different topics that, we hope you take advantage of. Many of the people who took advantage of that counseling have continued on a private basis with Hope Grows.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to have time for one more question from Linda.
Hi, Jimmy. Thank you for your presentation. I'm right here. When you said exercise and high-intensity exercise, can you explain that? Like, do you have to sweat?
Oh. So I will always refer to the research on all of this. For those of you who aren't familiar with the SPARK exercise study, okay, look that up. Just Google SPARK, Parkinson's SPARK study, and you will see the results from SPARK 1, Spark 2, and then now they're doing Spark 3, okay? What they found, so the short answer is yes, you're gonna be sweating, okay? But what they found when they say high intensity and what that means is essentially you need your heart to be working at about 75% of your max heart rate, okay? So I think that was the last question. I just want to add one more thing because the gentleman over here with the question about how care partners can support each other, I think is one more thing that I like to add is very important is that I think it's very important for humor to be a part of living with Parkinson's as well, right? Because if we can't laugh at ourselves, you know, right, Max? That's pretty funny. But, you know, I would always talk to my wife and I tell her, oh, I'm not doing so well today because my right hand isn't working, right? And then, you know, she'll be encouraging and she'll say, okay, you know, we'll take our time. And then I'll go to her like maybe another hour later and I say, oh, my right leg isn't working. And then her response is, well, if you just turn yourself around, you can do the hokey pokey. and that put a smile on my face because it was funny, right? But it also eased my mood a little bit. And I stopped focusing as much on my troubles instead in that moment, and I'm laughing at myself. But anyways, that's all. Thank you guys all again. Thank you.